Hello and welcome back to module number 6, Information Policy. But before I jump into information policy and what does it entail, I want to highlight again the major paper that is now available for you to review and start working on it. You're going to choose a career that you are interested. I know that some of you are from health science, or some of you are from the business, and some of you actually want to learn more about the information science career and what does it entail. So the paper, you need to choose what role you are looking at and what is the purpose of it, and you're going to do with a specific outline. I outlined the APA style, which is part of what it is called rules that you need to follow in order for you to accomplish your goal. And the goal is to write a paper. What is your career goal and how you're going to achieve it? And I want you to follow that. Again, this is really important, and you're going to post your abstract in the discussion board and let other people see what you are interested in and what you pursue, and maybe they will give you different perspective on the subject. So this is the major paper. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me or post it on the message board, and I'll answer that and let other people know about it, so everyone will know what does it means and what does it entail. The issue is, again, try to cooperate and try to share what you understand from it with your peers, in order for them to also have a better understanding what is your goal and how you're going to achieve that. But today's model is about information policy, and I will talk about what is information policy. I will look at what is the concern about information policy, especially nowadays when we have a new president that wants to change part of those information policy rules that we have been experienced in the last 12 years. So this is a very sensitive subject that I want your attention. I will talk about something that I am conducting right now a research on, which is copyright and open source. As we learned last time about big data or data science, we learned that one of the tools that we often use is open source, so everyone able to copy and reuse your code in order for them to succeed. And so my paper that will come up, I believe, in 3 months, it will be about copyright and the use of open source. Is it efficient or it has lack of definition? So that's something that I am really interested in, and I hope that my passion will transform to you and see why is it so important to keep rules and regulation on tact in order for us to understand what does it entail. So let's start from the beginning. What is information policy? It is rules and procedures, both formal and informal. And so they can be both can be positive and negative, and it reflects on the information in society. Example, the data that we use on our phone, or all the movies that we see in Netflix. Those are information, those are data that we collect and can have regulations on them. So information policy concerns us all because information has value, and it has become high value. So many people and organizations come into conflicts over those rights, and they are everyone trying to portray his role or his conflict with those regulations. So it is it comes into the public concern, and one of the things that we see, again, based on the last election, and President Trump wanted to review who cheated in the election and ask all the state to provide all the voters information. This is part of information policy and how information policy come into play. So what does information policy study? It's study about the censorship. It's study about the freedom of access to government information. It talks about or study about the limitation on access to private information. It talks about copyright and other rights to intellectual property, and I will define what is intellectual property in that sense, and discrimination of government information. And the last issue is literacy and what does it mean. So what does information study? It's concerned with the development of a standard to facilitate access to public information. It's supposed that the whole idea of information policy is to guard the privacy of private information and help to assess the management of records and the selective preservation of information. There are many difficult questions to be examined. I will not cover everything. This is not the idea. But if you are concerned, there is a course on information policy that we at the School of Information offer, and I highly recommend that, something that you probably will enjoy if that is your passion. One of the things that is really associated with information policy is censorship. So there is a lot of debates what is right and what is wrong, and I'll illustrate to you one example. Obscene materials. Example, something that we have the cinemas and even Netflix warn us that it is R-rated or you are rated or any other things that violates, example, adults versus children. And this is, some people call it a censorship. If you censor it, you're not, according to them, you're not allowed to do that. And that's part of the information policy that needs to be in place in order for people to have better understand what is right and what is wrong, and also to give them the ability to challenge those procedures or regulation in order for them to feel that it's not one person decision on the subject. Another issue which is not observed, which is not with regard to materials, is to access government information. In US, freedom of information law at the federal level allowed us to access public domain to the government information, and it does not allow us to access personal records or military and diplomatic information, which means that I can search government institutions. Example, the state of Florida governor. I can search his website and can find out what he does for the residents of Florida. But I cannot search in his database. I cannot search for personal information or military or diplomatic information. This is something that everyone agrees that is supposed to be hide from the public. So to what extent those are justified? And again, this is a debate, ongoing debate that needs to be addressed, and the policy or the policy makers often leave it open, so there will be continued debates about the essence of those policies. The right to private information. What rights do private individual have to keep information private, to conceal information? And again, this is a real big issue, and we will see that in the upcoming election and into the Congress, that they will talk about that more and more. And the next round of election to the presidency, when they will talk about, example, Trump. He doesn't want to release his tax form. Is it private information or is it public information? This is the issue that we are discussing, or the people with the information policy researcher are talking when they are trying to keep what is Intel and why is it so important. So most people tend to consider privacy as the right to which they attach high value, and they fear an invention from other people or by government to their private information. And that's one of the claims that the Trump team often says about his tax form. The right of private information. But there are people that argue the opposite, as expected. And so McLean say why internet privacy is overrated, and argue that compiling personal information let businesses become more efficient and produce only products that people want and reduce waste. This is this is a big issue with regard to the right on the web or on social media. Do the companies has the right to declare that this person, I don't have the right to see this person posting? This is something that we need to discuss and to have full understanding of it when we are talking about information policy. My area right now that I am trying to research is what is copyright. Put it in simple, copyright is the right to copy. And again, it is part of intellectual property right, which provide legal protection to creators of works of the mind. So the idea here, it guarantees copyright to the owners that has reproduced the work, has the original work or created the original work, dispute copies of the work, and perform the work or display the work in public. Anyone who does all this without permission of the copyright is the violation of copyright. So the copyrights provide authors control over the work. So the first basic protections that the law gives us is the right to make copies of the work, the right to sell, the right to prepare new work, and the right to perform the protected work in public. An example, the work of art. If I am a painter and I paint something that inspires me, and I will call it is my own work, and this is what my inspiration is, that might be under consideration to a copyright. And so we will define it as a copyright. I can, as the creator of the work, I can pay that it will be protected. Example, a lot of business people has a copyright to their product in order for them to protect the product. Example is iPhone. Steve Jobs paid high price to make the iPhone his own solid copyright protection, and by doing that, it belongs to the Apple company and Steve Jobs in particular. And so I would like you to watch that. This is infographics of copyright, and I think this is a good understanding. You create the work, you search the public domain, you create comments, and you use the claim of fair use to the copyright. And so the next subject that we are going to talk about, what is a fair use? So before I will move to fair use, we cannot cover copyright by the work in the domains. We cannot copyright ideas. If I have an idea, let's do something new, it's not a copyright. About facts, the same things, words, names, or slogan, or blank forms, or government work, and the work which copyright has expired. Who owns the copyright? It is the creator or the author. And so this is really important with regard to work. What protection does copyright offer the ownership? It has, if you own the copyright, only you have the right for the copy of the work, the right to sell the work, the right to prepare new works, and the right to perform and be able to apply that. No one else has that right. So why does copyright exist? To encourage, support, and protect your creativity and the creativity of your colleagues. And this is really important because we want to protect creativity. We don't want that it will be open to the market and everyone will be able to do or copy it. Why our institutions are so concerned about copyright? In the sense of university, because we are in the university system, we want to protect copyright and the author and the publisher that pay a reasonable lease fees to provide protection to the work. We are very keen about that. Example, in my textbook that I wrote, it is a copyright protection. I don't want you to copy it just because it's easy for you to do. I don't want you to copy and paste it. I want you not to pay me, but to read it, provide your interpretation to it, and then maybe provide reference to it. That's why if the upcoming classes you will be judged based on your use of reference in your work and you did not give reference to it, you probably will get reduced points for that because the instructor or the professor will see it as that you are overcoming or overriding the copyright of the works itself. And this is really important. What is the violation of the copyright? Again, as a student, when you copy someone else's work and you do not give the reference to it, it is violation of the copyrights. And you can actually get into court and probably convicted if you are being found to be in violation. The university takes it very seriously about copyright violation. And so how long does a copyright hold? It usually holds for 50 years, and this is something that is when it first published, and then it will go out to the public. But again, this is something that is always debatable. In the infographics that I showed you, that I took from that I gave you a reference to it, it talked about fair use. The fair use means that the work, to the extent of reasonable necessary for a particular purpose, and to be careful not to prejudge the author by taking an exclusive amount of the work concerning. Example, complete copying of the whole chapters of the book by lecture students that cannot be seen as a fair dealing with the fair use. So we are allowing you to use our PowerPoint or to use our textbooks, but you cannot copy all the work page by page, word by word, and then say it is yours. And that's why I want all of you to be very concerned. Fair use is the fair use of the work with regard to that sense, and I want to make sure that you will not override it, and when you provide the assignment, you will always remember the fair use and why is it so important. So the fair use is a legal right to copy a limited amount of copyright material without obtaining copyright permission from the owner of the work. So the copyright law allows for a limited use of copyright material without the author permission. under the fair use, it is small portion of the copyright of the work and can be supported research. Reproduction of the copyright. An example, if you are in education, you take my notes and you make a profit because you produce a better textbook or better copyright and you sell it for profit. This will be reproduction. Or another example out of the educational realm is the idea of music. When someone take music that does not belong to him and reproduce the music and use the same tones, the same lyrics, the same beat, and reproduce it, this is the idea of reproduction. And again, this is a big issue. This is, I know that I'm just cruising in on that subject, but I want you to be aware of it when you are copying someone else's work. Just remember that. Try to be in use, a fair use of it, and not the entire book or entire notes. The copyright and digitalization is also another important nowadays when everything is on the web or on social media. We need to make sure that we understand that we are not allowed to take any work and put our name on it because it's not ours. And so I want you to be aware of it. I want you to be cautious of it. And if you want to learn about, as I said before, learn about more, we offer a class on the subject. So the copyright concern, it is the owner, the authors, or the owner of the work that invested money on it. It usually lasts for 50 to 70 years. I said 50 in the beginning and 70 throughout his life. And so this is something that we are always debating on. And so how can copyright in the area of Napster or any other tools that nowadays available, they are trying to crack it down. There are rules that are trying to make this harder and harder to do that. And the European community are trying to fight it very hard. Nowadays, Google and even Microsoft paying the European for violation of a copyright. So again, this is something that we need to look at and we need to keep in our mind. And the discrimination of government information is another subject. What obligation do government have to make access to their information? Is it everything available? Is it partially available? Some of it we will hear in the upcoming years under Trump government. Is it going to be open access as the previous president gave us, or is it going to block part of the government information? We do not know that. We do not know what will happen, and so this discrimination of government information will be becoming bigger and bigger part, and we will see what those rules or information policy the Congress and the President will lay out for us to better understand what is the regulation. One of the last subjects that information policy always deal with is the obligation do government have to ensure that everyone will know how to read and write among the publics. And this is a big issue, and especially nowadays when we hear that more and more people in Africa do not know how to read and write, and they're trying to immigrate to America or to Europe, and they don't know what to do. Who is responsible for that? Who is responsible to teach them to read and write and how to protect that? And those are the things that information policy people needs to deal with. And one of those ideas was library. The idea that the library is free for everyone to be access to it. Ability to access it anytime through your computer or go to the library building that is open to everyone without any needs to pay for it. This is part of how information policy try to deal with literacy and how to overcome this problem with regard to that. So the questions we ask illustrate why we are concerned with citizens of democracy should, and even more so, every member of the library and information needs to know, to be aware of information policy studies, to participate in society effort to answer those questions, and to be aware of, example, what is the difficulties to ask those questions, what is information policy today, and what is copyright and fair use, and what is the issue of literacy. Those are the subjects that I wanted to cover today. If you have any questions, please let me know. We are about to finish the semester, and soon you will get more notes about rating your professor. So I will post more notes. I ask you to rate your professor. Give me a rate so I'll be able to understand what I have done wrong and what I've done right. And keep asking questions. This is the way for us to learn new knowledge, to learn new information and data, and keep on the good work. Until next time, have fun.